All right, we live. Alafia Mandala, Baby Fahoudie, it's your favorite warrior, Blak Panther, back in the techno organic jungle. For all the Blak Panther fans, y'all know why I call it that. We got a special little impromptu show today with the words from yesterday crew. Brother Adetayo, brother Kwaku. What's going on, brothers? How you doing?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah, man,
Happy to be here, man.
Definitely.
You know, it's definitely an honor, man. You know,
Yeah.
so we feeling good.
Man.
It's more of an honor for me, man, because I'm a young brother, into African spirituality, into the culture, into the customs and the traditions. I don't meet a lot of people like me, walking around and that's interested in this kind of stuff. So, coming across you two young brothers, that's very inspirational for myself. And I know it's going to be inspirational for the audience because, it's just something where we don't see it all the time. And when we see it, we have to celebrate it. We have to let people know that it's, more brothers and sisters out there like that. Cause, when you take that, when you make that decision, you can feel alone sometimes, alone by your family, your friends, your classmates, whatever demographic, you feel alone because people aren't talking and thinking like you. So we got to let people know that there's other young people, not just elders, that's out there engaging in these types of things. For those that don't know, words from yesterday channel, Instagram page started by these two young brothers, and they take the traditions and put it in a variety of forms for our enlightenment, our education, and sometimes our comedic relief. So these brothers, there's some powerful brothers. Introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay, so I guess I'll start for those of you who don't know. And it's funny, as I'm sure you know, depending on when people met you in life, they know you by different names. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people know me as Adetayo, or some people know me as Efun Bukola. From the DC area, Howard alum, Ifa practitioner, Olosha, student of the culture, student of the tradition. And I think you gave a pretty good introduction in terms of what's at the core of who I am and what I'm interested in. I take the culture very seriously. And another important point that you touched on is like trying to take that and make that palatable to a degree, for the masses of people who are turning away from some of these traditional, like the status quo of thought, whether it's Christianity or whatever, so kind of bridging that gap and exposing people to that depth. So that's something that's very important to me.
Definitely. So I'm Kwekubek Queen or Cesar Salam, either one. I am, I am a priest. For a second I forgot. I am a priest. I'm initiated into the Afrikan culture tradition. My title would be Okomfo, right? And that's a person who does Akom, right? That's a person who allows the Muslim, right? The almost like the Orisha to sit on you. And so you do work for them. As my brother said, I'm a lover of all things African. Like anything African, I love it. I'm here to promote it, constantly just here to do work in the best interest of African people, and so studying traditional African culture, traditional African thought, just traditional African anything is very beneficial to the future of African people, and so I just seek to study, and just to relearn, reconstitute the wholeness of who we are as African people, basically.
Absolutely. And what's special, you guys got a perfect mix. You got the Akom side with the Akan people, then you got the Sheshe with the Yoruba side people. It's it don't get no better than that. Those two philosophies combining to educate our people. So that's be something that's real special. Shout out to brother Sean, brother Ini Hared in the building, sister Anushua. Thank you for joining us. So you guys already covered what you practice, but why? Why did you decide to go into these different perspective traditions?
That's a
why? I don't know why.
Well, one thing I think I have to start by saying is that this is a generational effort.
Yeah.
So I think just for Black people in America in general, it's a generational effort. But within our family, that has its own taste. So, you had Nana Dini Zulu, who bought the Akan shrines over to America, with the help of other Okomfo. You had other significant figures like Baba Adefumi the first, and other people who did that pioneering work. Even if you go back to people like Zora Neale Hurston, who are studying the culture from an anthropological perspective. So I think we represent a generational effort in terms of that, like a stepping stone. I think for our family, so on our Haitian side, so on one side, my father's from Haiti, my mother's from here. On the Haitian side, we have voodoo in our lineage, but it's here and there. And, as you know, with most Caribbeans, it's Catholicism on the surface, and they don't necessarily talk about the African spiritual practice. So it's in the family, but then my father had to make the decision to leave the church and find their Akan shrines. My mother did the same thing. My grandmother, or our grandmother, grew up in the South, and then she kind of came into consciousness through the Nation of Islam. She was
she met our grandfather.
Yeah.
And he was already political. Like he knew it was up. And he kind of he's basically spit game my grandmother. And then through that she became politicized. And then they moved up to New York and they started working with the Nation of Islam. They were working with
and so funny thing to add to the story is that my grandmother was selling beauty products door to door, and like the straightening products and everything. And when she came to my grandfather's door in North Carolina, he was like, "Yo, sis, why are you selling these lies and everything?" And
wrong door.
He gave her a book, and so she left North Carolina Central.
Yep.
So fast forward, my parents, kind of brought us up in a general African spiritual perspective. But then we moved to DC. My father, maybe was it 10 or so years ago?
More than that now.
Maybe 15 years ago, he went through his initiation to be an Akan priest. And so I think we just represent a continuation of that. And we've had our own kind of journey in that. Yeah.
For me, like ever since I was young, when I first started seeing Akom, I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I knew it. Like it wasn't even questions about it. Everyone around me knew it. And so for me, going into Akan stuff was kind of clear already. But everyone around us also does Yoruba stuff. So around us in DC, we have people who do Yoruba stuff, people who do Haitian voodoo, people who do Akan stuff, people who do a whole bunch of different systems, but our destinies, chose our paths basically.
I think that's like a good backdrop or theme to everything that we do. Like the baton has been passed to us, and we're just trying to take it a step further, before we pass it on. And I know that's what you're trying to do too, and that's what you said earlier. I like
on the shoulders of our ancestors, man. That's what it's about. But I noticed y'all kept saying our, so y'all are related in some way.
Yes.
Yep, we're brothers. This is my older brother.
Yes.
Really?
Yep, same parents, everything.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
In some way, but I didn't really know quite how, because I saw the pictures and I was like, okay, so they known each other a very long time, but I didn't know if you know how Black folks do. That's like my cousin, they don't really be related.
Nah, so, we blood
brothers.
We blood.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's special right there, man. That's special. So why did you guys decide to start Words from Yesterday?
I mean, so in the community, in the organization we're a part of in DC, there's a rite of passage program. So around 13, 14, up to like 16, once you hit that age, you go through rite of passage. There's a male component, there's a female component. And so and there's other aspects as to why we did it, but with rite of passage, as you're learning for the men, the secrets of manhood and all those type of things, one of the big things we learn is our proverbs, right? We learn proverbial wisdom and how to apply it to our everyday situation, right? So anything we get into, we should be able to call forth a proverb that speaks to that situation and use it to help us navigate as to what we should do, what we shouldn't do. right? And so he went through however many years ago. I went through almost 10 years ago, I feel like. And so, you know, once you graduate, you come back and you help the next line, the next set of boys, and you continue to do that. And so over those 10 years or 9 years or whatever, I think it helps you refine just your understanding of everything. And so like this year, I guess, we kind of just were talking because we were helping the boys, teaching them Proverbs. And it was just kind of like, yo, we love Proverbs. We're good at doing it. We should start something and share. And so he hit me up and was like, yo, you want to come record a video at my countertop in his kitchen talking about Proverbs. And then from there, just kind of just grown to what it is. I'm sure you want to add some more stuff about that.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, so exactly what you said, the rite of passage, we have to learn hundreds of Proverbs. We have to recite them. It's sometimes we have to do it under duress. You know, like sometimes you're kind of being confronted with physical challenge, and it's like, yo, say your Proverbs, you know. But the only thing I would add to that is that most people, because we grew up here, you know, so we grew up in the Black American experience. So we grow up with Proverbs, you know, and it's actually something I'm writing about that. But we grew up with a lot of Proverbs, and you don't think of them as Proverbs because they're just simple. You know, you say stuff like a hard head makes a soft ass. What goes around comes around. Right, you know, don't get stung by the same bee twice. All these things. So we grew up with that Southern wisdom coming from my mother. We went to an African-centered school, and so our teachers would write Proverbs on the board every single day. We'd have to review them, and so Proverbs have always been a part of us. Go fast forward to the rite of passage. So I think words from yesterday is us kind of just sharing it with the world, you know. So,
Interesting. And this rite of passage program, is this something anybody can sign up that's in the immediate DC area, or how does it work to be a part of this?
There's a process.
There's an interview process, but it's open. Like there have been people who participated that are not a part of the organization. They just have to reach out to one of the facilitators, express their interest, come do the interview. And then if their son or daughter is of that age, then, you know, they can participate.
Awesome. So if anybody is, you know, listening in DC area, want to get into that, I put the brother's Instagram in the description. So, you know, hit them up and, you know, get that information if you're in that area. And, you know, it's something to where you can get your children involved, you know. You got your products of Pan-Africanism in action, you know, African-centered schools, African-centered parents, transitioning to the African-centered, you know, education and spirituality as you've grown. And it's a beautiful thing to see from young brothers. And, you know, we just got to keep that going. Like you say, you've been given the baton, and we got to run that race. You know, it's our race to run. Nobody can run it for us. So, So with the what you guys have created, you know, is there like a mission statement, or is it more of a freelance thing, or just describe where you guys heads are at with your product?
I don't think we ever sat down and said, like, let's write out a mission statement, but I think we've always been clear, like, look, we are trying to showcase, I wouldn't say showcase, we're trying to share traditional African culture in its truest form, right? I think right now there's a lot of, with the big flow back into traditional African culture and spiritual systems and so on, a lot of people are sharing a lot of different things. Some of it is true. Some of it is like, okay, well, let me think about that a little bit. And so for me, for us, I think having been blessed to be able to grow up around people that we look at and we're like, yo, this, if I think of a priest or a priestess, there are people that come to my head like, yo, this is the top of the top. And so basically being able to share the experiences that we've had with them, the knowledge that we've gathered by being able to be around these elders and so on, just showcasing it in its truest form. But like you said, making it funny, right? We want to make it something that's relatable. We don't want to make it so that it's something that, oh my God, I need to have been initiated for 1,000 years before I can learn this. Like, nah, like this is something that you can learn and is very close to home, as I did said, because we grow up in America, we have our proverbs, we have our knowledge base, and they're not very different, to be honest, right? A lot of the proverbs you can find here, you can trace them back to Ghana, to Yoruba land, to, you know, to wherever, and you can see the connection. So helping to draw that connection and just helping to share traditional African culture and its truest in most unadulterated form, you know?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is like, and you start to touch on it, but like you're seeing people moving away from some of these. When I say traditional, I mean traditional European,
Right.
traditional European modes of thought. You see people away from the church to some degree. You see people realizing that there's more, you know, and so I think part of that is we want to show people that. So it started with Proverbs. Proverbs are actually useful in your everyday life.
Right.
You don't have to live in a traditional village for these proverbs to matter. You know, and so I read Proverbs every morning. He studies Proverbs all the time, and they help me with my everyday life. So wanting to show people that this wisdom can help you navigate the world. Wanting to show people, like you said, the depths of the spiritual traditions and how that can be used in terms of our situation here and navigating and dealing with the challenges that we deal with. So so really just showing people that it's not some esoteric, these are not some esoteric, antiquated things, you know, that these are very useful things that matter. And this is actually our salvation. Like this is our future, you know, and if we continue to only cling to these unsustainable Western ideas, right, then we're gonna go down with them, you know. So I think that's an important part.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the real thing of it being applicable to what we are facing now. Like we as African people, we've existed for so damn long. Like in the amount of things that we've gone through, like one of the foundational tenets of African worldview is understanding that things move in a cycle. Right. And so when we understand that things move in a cycle, we understand that something that happened yesterday can apply to something that's happening today or something that will happen tomorrow. And so when we look at all the proverbs, we got to understand that, this stuff is applicable. You know, I think a lot of times in the West, you have stuff like, you know, Shakespeare, and people quote that like, oh man, Shakespeare, that brother was deep. You know, he was talking all this stuff. And I'm like, for me, when I hear it, I'm just like, I mean, that's cool. But when someone brings a proverb, like our elders used to say this, and they drop some proverb about whatever, I'm just like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, it hits me. And I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. You know, and so for me, it's like, look, we don't have to necessarily look to Shakespeare or Plato's or Socrates or whoever the fuck. We got our own pool of knowledge that is deep, is ancient, and is still applicable to today.
Yeah, Socrates not hitting like Abatala. I'll tell you that
like bro.
He ain't hitting like. I mean, y'all right, man, but you know, them old dudes, I mean, that hit a little harder for me, you know.
Right.
Facts, man.
That's it.
And you guys, you hit it earlier. You do African American proverbs, you do Akan proverbs, you do Yoruba proverbs. Describe, like, is there like a familiarity when you start studying all these different proverbs? Like, how close do you see like the connections when you start looking into these different cultures' proverbs?
So go ahead. I would say that because I'm actually working on like a short book about proverbs and hip hop, R&B, and other African American like musical forms. So one thing I'm careful not to do is draw linkages where there aren't any linkages. Mm-hmm. And so the linkages are not always that this particular proverb has come directly from a Yoruba proverb. You'll find that more in the Caribbean. You'll find some Haitian Creole Haitian proverbs that are verbatim proverbs from Nigeria. You'll find that in Jamaica. You'll find verbatim tree proverbs. But the proverbs here, I think that sometimes they may come from European sources. They may come from the Bible. But where I think the linkage is that it's the same core cultural tenets. Yeah. And this is just a vehicle of expression. So like if it's like family is core, if that's an idea that's been passed over through the Middle Passage to us now, we may be using proverbs in the Bible to express that, and we may pass those on to our children, or like other tenets like spirit, you know, like because you start to see that the way that we even quote the Bible, the way that we quote certain stuff is not the same way that white people do it. It's really not, you know. So I think that there are some direct linkages, but I think more than that, it's the core cultural tenets being expressed using this language, using this set of
I think that's on point. I think honestly that's more important than being able to say, oh, this proverb comes directly from here. I mean, okay, yeah, it's cool, but being able to see that the worldview, the way we look, the way we engage at the world has, you know, to a certain degree been able to be maintained. Like that's the primary thing, you know. But I mean, like, yeah, you go there, you'll find proverbs. You'll be like, this is literally the exact same proverb.
Yeah, like it's like there's a Haitian proverb that says like something like the best time to catch a black goat is before sundown or something, or like don't try to catch a black goat when it gets dark. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting proverb. And then I'm reading all of these Nigerian proverbs from different ethnic groups. I'm like, wait a minute, that's a proverb in Igbo.
Right.
That's a proverb here.
Right.
You know, or another one, the one that you always like, which is like when a chicken drinks water, it first lifts its head up to God to show thanks. And then like I'm reading all of this, I'm doing all this research about proverbs from Trinidad, from Haiti, Jamaica, and I'm seeing the same proverb. And I'm like, okay, like that's a very direct linkage. I mean, there's so many other proverbs which have like directly survived. But yeah,
very, very interesting stuff. I imagine it's a very intricate study.
Definitely
forth between all these cultures. That's amazing. So I wanted to ask you guys this since I first saw the video. Whose idea was it to have a proverb battle like you guys have?
So in our con culture, that is something that happens. Like just how we have like the great debate and people debate topics and stuff like that. We have, you know, our proverb battles. Like you can literally, if you Google it on YouTube, you'll see people who are doing proverb battles. It's straight entry and it happens a lot faster because they just be spinning back and forth. But you know, that game, that competition is something that's very ancient, and it's a way to test your knowledge, to test your ability to recall wisdom and apply it, right? Because generally, when one person says a proverb, your proverb is supposed to complement that proverb, speak to a same idea about it, or contradict it to say, well, yes, this happens, but this proverb says X, Y, and Z, you know? And so when you're going back and forth, especially when you're going quick, you have to be able to say, oh, wait, he's talking about this. Okay, well, I need to say a proverb about this, or I need to say a proverb about this. So it's a game that it really tests your abilities, man. You know,
y'all thought freestyling was difficult. Battle rapping was difficult. Off the top of the proverbs, you know.
Yeah. We'll go back and forth literally for an hour, man. Like, believe it or not, like so y'all see a snippet. Y'all really see a snippet of what we do. We go back and forth. All right, we're gonna cut right here. But we go like literally. There's been times like there was times we had a party and we're having fun, and literally we break out having a proverb battle in the middle of the party. Yeah. Like I like it. It's fun for us, but we go back and forth and back and forth. Even like our little brother, how old is he now? He's 18, just started at Howard. He'll get in there. He'll do it with us. You know, and he be going too. You know, our parents, they'll do it with us. Our other brother, so we all go back and forth. Yeah, and our next horizon that we're working on is being able to say more of the proverbs in Yoruba. Yeah, just straight more of the proverbs in Tree and stuff like that. More proverbs in Creole Haitian. Yeah, and different languages and stuff like that. When we get to that point where we can say all of them, just all of it. That's gonna be. I'm gonna feel good about
crazy
that
because I've seen two things in Yoruba culture that are similar. What they call the Iyeri Ifa and Babalaos that get together on Itadogun, which is like, you know, 17th day. And they'll just start, you know, I'll start the Odu, somebody else finishes it, and he keep going around. And if you can't finish the Odu or pick up, you know, you out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and then I see it amongst the hunters, the Ogun worshipers. They have something that, you know, they going off the top with Ijala. So, you know, you want to start and say, Ogun Lakae, and you're like, oh, Sini Mole, Ogun Alara. movie, and they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And what was crazy about that is sometimes the Egungun are the judges.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yep.
Wait a minute.
That's how I know.
It makes me think about, our battle rap culture and the aggressiveness of the smack and the URL and all that. And I'm like, this might not be as organic as we think it is. We have things that are very, very similar. It's just
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's like an excellent point that you made, because if you think about it, like just growing up around the way or whatever, like there's a certain reverence that you give to the dudes who can spit like that. Yeah. You give them a certain reverence. You like, yo, that dude can flow, and so it's and I think the same thing you'll see, like you said, in Nigeria. And I remember a similar thing, like first time in Nigeria, just sitting on the mat, even like when Odu falls, and listening to different people chant different verses from that Odu. And I'm just sitting there like, like
watch it, like what
little kids up until the elder comes out, and the elder will like drop like 5 or 10 verses. And I'm just like, wow. And so for me, I think that was another moment to me where I was like, I want to be like that. Like I was like, that's just so cool to me. Like to be able to be someone who can from memory just recite your ancestors' wisdom, So I give it that same reverence.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like a lot of our systems, even ones that had writing systems concretely attached to them, are just very oral. Like we give praise and respect to the word, and we see that over here with Christianity. The preachers get to preaching and stuff. You see it, like they respect. Oh man, that person or whatever, they speaking good today. But it's the same thing. It's like we give respect to the ability to speak and to speak well. Like in our con stuff, if you go, let's say you go to the Ohene, like the king, and you go to his palace or whatever. If you go there and you start misusing your proverbs, right, your speech or whatever, in the olden days, your head probably be taken off, to be honest, because it's like it's that big of a deal for you to go and misspeak. It's like, do you not have control over yourself for you to go and misspeak? And it's not only even just spoken proverbs, but it's even just symbolically the things you'll wear. Like I was reading a story about, it was a guy, it was like one of the, I guess like a sub chief, that's what they call him in English, but he had came there, they had been having some dispute about something in terms of ruling the town, and he came there with his shoes on the opposite feet. And everyone, they saw it and they were in an uproar. They were like, what is happening? And they were like, we demand to know what this proverb means. Like, you like, look at your feet, your shoes are on the wrong feet. What are you saying? Are you saying that everything is mismatched? Everything is all over the place? What are you saying? Like, people will get upset. And so it's like, it's the words you speak, but it's also, it's the symbolism that you carry, so it gets deep, man.
Yeah, the con culture is deep, because the cloth has proverbs in it.
Yeah,
the cloth has symbols on it. Like,
y'all got the war, in the cloth and the it's crazy. I mean, and in African culture in general, like little subtle things you think mean nothing, it means something.
Yep.
He's like, why does he wear that red cloth on his left hand all the time? You're like, oh, that means something.
Yep.
I asked the question, have you seen him without it? You're like, no. I'm like, then it means something.
And there you go.
It means something.
That's it. Yep.
How hard is it to like translate these proverbs into English? Is it like some words you be like, man, like this doesn't really have an English equivalent, or you have to try to do the best you can, or has that been a difficulty for you guys?
So I'll say this. So we have a number of even just proverb books, right? And so as I'm getting higher and higher in my ability to speak Chi, that's not the language that I con people, I've noticed that, like, okay, this translation actually is not the best, right? This is not the best way to convey whatever this means. And sometimes you'll see the almost like the politics come into the translations, because sometimes you'll see something to be like, I don't know, it would be like the word would be like edru, which means medicine, but they'll translate it as a fetish thing or sticks or something, because they don't understand the cultural relevance, or they have complete disregard for the cultural relevance, right? And so, especially when it comes to shrine stuff, they'll be very haphazard with the translation sometimes, right? Sometimes you'll find people who are very good with it, but sometimes you'll find people who just like, oh, it's a fetish. It's just like, what the hell is a fetish, man? Like,
yeah.
So stuff like that, you have to, okay, let's change it around. They really mean medicine man. They don't mean witch doctor. They mean like stuff like that. But
that inflammatory speech makes it up in there, you know. He's a witch doctor.
Exactly.
I mean, on the Yoruba side, like, because I'm obviously still learning, you know, but proverbs are something that's helping me understand the language even more as I translate proverbs. But it's funny, the medicine example you gave, because you see the word ogun in a lot of proverbs, and it'll be translated as juju, medicine. It'll be translated stuff like that. And when I want to give the translation to people, I'm like, this thing is actually saying something deeper, you know, because for me, being a traditionalist, it kind of seems like you're talking about traditional medicine, like you're talking about something that's much deeper, but there's not exactly the same way to translate into English, you know, or even just some conceptions around character. That's something that I'm kind of idea I'm playing with in my mind. Like, character is an English word, and even some of the designations for character that you'll see in Yoruba language. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, is that translation the best? Does it exactly hold the same weight, you know, as what it's saying, you know, to someone who's entrenched in the culture, you know? So I think it's also something that I'm coming to understand. The more I understand the language, and the more I'm able to think like a Yoruba person, you know. So it's like there are everyday moments when I'm in Yoruba class, and I'm like, okay, this is what that means. Okay, I have a better understanding of this. So
yeah. And when you say medicine from a European context and medicine in an African context, we're talking about two different things. You know, from a European context or more, you know, in America, we're talking about doctor's office, aspirin, you know, penicillin. We're talking about something, you know, purely things that can heal or you know, if too much it can hurt, whatever. But when you say medicine in the African context, and if you ask like a traditional African, you know, priest, like, hey, I want to learn about medicine, they'll be like, what kind of medicine? From who? Like, medicine can take you, man. Medicine, you be all day trying to figure out what type of medicine are we talking about, you know?
Right.
Medicine does so many different things to, you know, the African, not just, you know, for the body, but for the spirit, for everything else. So it's not just, you know, point blank, straight line, you know, it could be, you know, anything, you know.
Yeah, or another one I would add to that is like heaven. Like you know, you translate
man, that's
heaven.
The more you learn about that word, you like, this is not what they saying, because this heaven and this heaven, these are two different places. Got to be two different places. First of all, they're in different locations.
Right. I mean, I think that's just part of it, is that when we go back to a lot of these traditions, one of the things that's very necessary is that we spend the time learning the language, learning just before we even jump into the shrines. Okay, how do these people see and engage with the world? Once we do that, then we realize that Orun and heaven, that does not even make sense together, right? You begin to see that, and you even begin to see why calling Olodumare God actually does not make sense, because they're two very different understandings of how God and Olodumare work and engage with people, with humans in the world around it. So when we spend that time, when we spend that time studying the language and just how do the people look and see the world, then we begin to understand, okay, wait, I need to find another way to engage with this.
The only thing I was gonna add to you is that some native Yoruba speakers may disagree. They may try to tell you that Olorun is God. They may try to tell you Orun is heaven, because they're coming from the Christian.
Yeah,
they're coming from their version of the Christian understanding, and they want to synonymize. I don't know if that's even a word. They want to make those two.
Yeah,
They want to synchronize it. They want to sync
yeah,
them up.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate because they're trying to make you understand, and they figure, that these terms. So I'm gonna put it in something you can understand. If I came up the hard way, man. I kind of came up backwards, jumped into it full throttle, Risha, goon, get this, and then I was like, I don't know what any of these words mean. So I had to go back, and if I could do it over again, and this is always my advice to someone that wants to get into, whether it's a Okom, whether it's voodoo, whether it's a sheshe, whatever it is, study the language first. Take you a couple of years and just get that language, because that's the DNA of the culture, and get to where you're, you don't have to be the most fluent ever, but get to where you're competent and where simple terms mean, because it'll help you out in the long run, especially when doing the type of research that you brothers do and myself as well. It'll help you out. So that's always my advice to people.
Definitely.
In the long run, man, you're gonna be like, man, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I did.
I couldn't agree more.
So being that you brothers deal with the Akan and the Yoruba, does it get confusing sometimes when you're doing your rituals? Do you it's like if you're going to an Akan shrine, do you slip up sometimes and be like, and get in a Yoruba mode and be like, oh man, this is right?
Yeah, it's interesting because my wife is an Akan priestess. Me being a Orisha priestess. I mean priest. It's there's some interesting things that happen. Even doing shrine work with my father, who is an Akan priest, sometimes the messages will overlap. Sometimes I may be throwing OB, and I'll get something, or I may have just come from Ifa and I'll get something, and then my father will tell me the exact same thing that he got from his shrines, and so it'll be really interesting. Or even I remember when I bought one of my elders from Nigeria, he spent some time with me, and he actually came to an Akan festival that we had here. And there's a deity in Akan, Osujibi, right? A river deity. And when my elder from Nigeria listened to the music for it, he was looking at dances. He was like, I had to slow down, because he was like, I was starting to catch the spirits, because my family is heavy from the Olokun tradition, out of the Beni Olokun tradition. And he was like, the feel of that energy reminded me of that. So he was like, I started to feel that spirit come to me. So I was like, that's really interesting to have, two water deities, or even just for him to feel that the rhythms and the energy that was coming was the same. So it's an interesting kind of thing of seeing how these things can kind of interact. And the last point that I'll add is that we got to escape from, and this is a hard thing to do, Europeans have categorized and divided up ethnic groups in Africa. And even some of the groups that we consider these are Yoruba people, it's a recent designation, when you have individual groups of people who have their own identity, or even this is a Ghanaian tradition, this is a Nigerian tradition. When we were in Nigeria, we met a group of people, I can't remember, they were in Badagry, but they had during the time where people were being sold into slavery, they had traveled all the way over towards Ghana, and then they came back, and they were because when we went there, we saw what looked like an Ashanti stool. And then we were like, the dialect of Yoruba that y'all speaking sounds different.
It's very,
and then they would kind of give us the history and explaining it. So I'm saying all that to say that we can't get caught up in the country borders. We can't always get caught up in the European designation. So while those two traditions may be a little bit far apart, it's not just like this is Nigeria, this is where it stops. This is Benin, this is where it stops. This is Togo, etc.
Yeah, man. I think I mean the systems, they have their uniqueness, but at the core of it, a lot of it is very similar. That doesn't mean it's the same. That doesn't mean that this deity is the exact same as this deity. And I don't think we really try to look for the exact comparison, but I think I mean, just like if you go to Benin, like you have a Gungun masquerade there, you have other Yoruba shrines over there, and so there's a way that everything's able to coexist without much. Oh my God, what's happening here? You know, everything's able to exist in the same playing field with the same level of respect being afforded to each. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's just about balancing, recognizing clearly, like for us going back, we should recognize clearly, okay, what is this? Right? Okay, what is this other thing that I have? Okay, and as you move through things, you know, things will settle down in your life and your family how they're supposed to settle down. Because like you saying, like you go to Nigeria, you see people, oh shoot, like this shrine, this is a shrine from Ghana. How do you have it? You know, you go to Ghana, you see people with shrines from other places. Like it's like, how do you have this? You'll see Akan people who have shrines that come from Mali or come from the top of Ghana, Burkina Faso, and going into there. You like, how do you get this shrine? And they're like, I mean, someone came, he visited, he gave me a shrine, he left. The shrine's a part of my family now for 300 years. It's like, what am I supposed to say? You know? So, yeah.
And it happens more often than people realize, you know.
Exactly.
Africans borrow from each other all the time. Like, just what they do. And they put it into their system. They you know, Europanize or Ghanaize it, and it becomes, you know, something in their system. It's actually in my journal that I'm about to drop, Killmonger's Corner Volume 2, coming out on Black Friday. Brother Saul, he has a article in this journal called The African Super Information Highway, as he categorized it, from Dr. Kayosa Kajangu. And he talks about the tradition of people that we would consider priests traveling to different places in Africa, learning what they learn and coming back. That long-standing tradition is how we get some of these things in other places. Like you said, these lines of demarcation are new. They didn't exist, you know, during this time period. So people were just going different places. Hey, I heard this guy in Benin, he does this thing with medicine. I'm gonna go him and find out what it is, you know. And the traveling, even Credo Mutwa talks about the same thing, how when he became a Sangoma, how he went to Central Africa, in Uganda, Congo area, and he learned there, and then he went somewhere else, and he went somewhere, then he came back to his homeland. So, you know, this is a long-standing tradition of people that are proficient in their system going somewhere else and getting more knowledge in perspective systems. And in Africa, the more of that you have and the more of that you know, the more powerful that they view you. You know, even if it's just going to a neighboring village to learn an Odu you never heard before.
Right.
Now you have more power because you can chant that verse to somebody and help somebody out or something like that. So I don't think that's been studied enough. You know, we need to start thinking more about before these demarcation occurred. What was the norm, and you know, how do people view their neighbors? You know what I'm saying? A great example is Egypt. Everybody talks about the Nubians, but there's so many different sects of Nubians, so to speak. You know, so many different sects of Tassetians or whatever you want to call these people, these Ta-Nehisis, that, you know, if you lump them all together, you'll miss a lot of their culture. You know, their interactions with what we call the Egyptians. You know, you'll miss a lot of things that overlapped. You know, you go down there and you see something from Egypt, you be like, wait, what?
Yep.
This
looks really old. And they're like, yeah, this has been here for a long time.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, how old is this?
Yeah.
I saw a picture of a Ma'at statue when I was in Aswan, and I was like, wait a minute. This isn't Egypt.
Yeah.
But that's Egyptian. So there's an exchange, there's a cultural exchange going on. And it happened in West Africa, Central Africa, South Africa, North Africa, East Africa. It didn't matter. That's just what Africans do. So, you know, you guys getting into that, that's beautiful, man. We appreciate y'all. Hope everybody that has IG goes to Words from Yesterday, Follow these brothers on IG. Follow them on YouTube. You know, and they bring the funny too. Don't get it confused, because the one y'all did with the instruments of African spirituality, when it was like, "Hey man, I'm about to go buy a cigar for my father." He's like, "Did your father die like 3 years ago?"
Well, we gotta do another one like that, man. We gotta do another one.
I'm about to drop one as soon as we get off here. So if y'all check me out, you know, I'm about to drop another comedy sketch right after we get off.
Yep.
Man, yeah. The other one he was talking about, when you keep asking the shrines the same question, and they keep saying no.
That's real though, man. That's real. You like, wait, can you please just tell me yes? I'm like, no.
No.
You asked me 3 times. I told you no.
Just no.
Yep, that's real, man.
Yeah. Well, man, we appreciate you too, man.
Yeah, man.
We appreciate the support. We appreciate you having us too, man.
Definitely.
You know, and yeah, man, we appreciate all the work that you do too. You know, we gotta be. It's like and I jokingly talk about this all the time, poke fun at it, but when you leave the church is very dogmatic. We know that.
Yeah.
It's good that you feel free and expressive when you're in African spiritual spaces, but you still got to understand it's an order and it's a structure. So I always you talked about that earlier.
Yeah,
I appreciate
a lot of people just want to be free. And I'm like, life even has an order, you know, of operation. So, you know, although it is not dogmatic, and there's room for it to shape, change, and grow, there's still a structure, there's still an order and a process to the rituals that we do. You can't just, you know, come up on the shrine and do whatever you want. So that's a very important element that people should take from this broadcast. You know, it's not free willy-nilly. I do what I want now, you know, whatever. There's still things and protocols that need to be, you know, followed. And you brothers going through the priestly, you know, the priestly training, you know, I ask people all the time, you sure you want to be a priest? You sure? You sure?
Man, it's funny because just yesterday it was yesterday, right? Yeah. We had an event with another Afrikan priestess, Okonfor. I think she's in New York. And that's what we were talking about. Like, look, you got to understand that if you do this, you are marrying a shrine. And if you marry a shrine, like that shrine is with you for life. Like you have to check with it. You're in a marriage. You can't just go off and do whatever you want. I mean, there's even a common proverb that says too much freedom leads to the loss of identity, right? So people think I'm free, but then don't realize that that's when you get lost, when you think you can do any and everything, you know. So it's hard, but if this is in your destined path or whatever, it's something that is very rewarding, you know. So if you do this, study hard, be humble as you go through it, and you know, may all the blessings in the world come to you.
Sure.
Yeah, and getting initiated is a marriage. I tell people that all the time. It is a marriage. You get married. So I've been married.
Are you married? Right. I'm like, yeah, I'm married. I'm not married, but I'm married. Like,
I'm married. Okay. And I'm the wife.
Like, there you go, man.
Like, they gotta make this house whole, you know. And people don't understand when I say this, but you know, in Yoruba culture, you actually get the title of wife when you get initiated. You get a yawo, and that's because it's up to you to make this relationship, this house, a home. It's up to you to do this, and that's a cultural thing stemming from their culture. So if you want to get initiated, Ogun, Ifa, Egungun, just understand what you're getting yourself into. It's going to be a lot of studying, a lot of everything. I mean, this thing can take on, it become a job, you know? So, you know, you brothers know, and I think we have the wrong mentality in America, because we want to receive everything. We want to connect. We want to, you know, we want to receive everything. You got to learn how to work with whatever it is you receive. And that can take a minute. You know, you have to learn how to worship, you know? So it's something to where, you know, it's work. I tell you, don't let nobody tell you it ain't, because it's work. You have to work at these things to know all the proverbs that these brothers know. You know, they didn't download it into their heads from a program or anything. It took time to memorize this stuff, and that's the same for any African tradition. You know, our brothers in the church, they just go to the good book and read, and you know, you can't read this stuff when you're in front of the shrine. You gotta know it. You know, we can't. We don't have that luxury. You know, so. Because there's so many other stuff you got to be doing. You know, you got to pick up cola nuts. You got to spray water, spray gin. You ain't got time to have no book and try to do all this stuff, you know. So that's a luxury we don't have. But for everybody that's interested, I mean, you don't have to be a priest is what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. You know, you can be a devotee. You can be someone in the tradition that has a specialized skill.
Right.
You don't have to go the route that me and these brothers have gone. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody gonna look down on you, nothing like it. That's fine. Because we don't need all priests either. If we have all priests, who are we going to do work for?
Yeah.
You know, can't be all priests. So, you know, just wanted to make that point. I thank you, brothers, for coming on. We don't want this video to be too long, but these brothers out in DC doing great things. Words from yesterday. Like, share, and subscribe to the video. Go on Instagram and follow these brothers. Words from yesterday. I guarantee you're going to get something out of it. You know, if that's something to where proverbs, you want to hear more African proverbs. You want to hear more things about the culture. You want to hear things about songs. You want to hear things about, you know, different things in multiple African traditions. Follow these brothers. Words from yesterday on YouTube and Instagram. I guarantee you're going to get something out of it. So we're going to wrap it up, man. Are there any questions from the chat room before we get out of here? Are there any questions? Because I want to give y'all some time. If I don't, I'm going to get off here. They'll be like, I wanted to ask a question. You didn't. You ain't let us ask no questions. They be on me, man. All right, I going once.
Right there, you asked, man. You put it out there.
Going twice. No seconds. Don't inbox me. You got a Yoruba, you got a Khan priest here. If you got a question, this is the time to ask. Putting it out there. And right after this, I'm gonna get 100 questions. Watch.
There you go. That's how it goes. That's how it goes.
That's just how it go, man. That's just how it go. All right. We're gonna wrap it up. Thank you for everybody that joined and watched. I appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, share the video. You know, we broadcasting on Mossy Warrior Clan channel, my channel, Blak Pantha, and my Facebook. So you got 3 chances to watch. So, you know, always here to get it in. Thank you, brothers. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your dedication. And y'all stay warm up there in DC.
I'm trying, man.
I know it's 20 out there now.
Yeah, man, it's getting cold. It is, man. And we appreciate you too, man. Yeah. And keep up all the work that you're doing, man. Keep it up.
Absolutely. And may Shango's fire keep you warm at night. All right, man. We out of here. I appreciate everybody for joining us. Odabo.